Hi.
How are you?
Doing okay.
Yeah, me too. Me too. It's Wednesday, hump
Yeah.
day. So you get to it and you get through it. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So I called you last week, and everyone, welcome to America's Heroes Group Roundtable Live Digital Media Show. This segment is called We the People. I know you're like, okay, why is the executive producer? Yeah, I'm doing a segment outside of America's Heroes Group with my own voice because I was extremely upset last week when I called Stephanie
Mhm.
and look, yeah, we both was like going at it. Um, I was very, very insulted. I was very hurt. I was extremely felt so disrespected by North Carolina's Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson's. He's a candidate for governor of that state by his comments of slavery. Wish he could own some slaves. Black, being a black Nazi, whatever that is. I felt, I can't explain it, but it was beyond hurt because my family, we're from Mississippi originally. As a little girl in the 60s, I saw signs that said white only. I walked in the back door sometimes with my grandmother, who was a maid, who went to work. I walked in the back door with her. We're talking about in the 60s. Yeah. Um, my mom, especially my father's side of the family, were sharecroppers. They pick cotton because there was no jobs for black people. The segregation and the Jim Crow and all that, it was beyond what they could, it was beyond their control. So they did the best they could, sharecropping, because it allowed the family to have some place to live. But as a sharecropper, you never got ahead because that was indirect slavery, because all you were doing was just having a area where you could live and eat. But the land you worked, it went straight back to the landowners. So that comment of slavery, of he wished he could own slaves, that hurt me in ways I can't even explain it, because I visualize my family. My dad's side of the family were sharecroppers. They were denied their educational opportunities. They were denied their human rights to vote and anything else. They were denied. So for an elected official who we pay their taxpayers money, we pay for them, not indirectly from Illinois, but taxpayer money is collected. And then it's goes to Washington and it's disseminated per state as it's allocated to pay these people's salaries. They have the best health care benefits in the world. So it was at one time, Stephanie, elected officials just didn't say anything because they knew the consequences of doing that was was impactful to the point that they could be removed from office,
Mhm.
censored, penalized. This is just they just did not do things like that before 2016. So we know that things changed after 2016. The
Yes.
other comment of the black Nazi thing set me off too. Why? Okay, so my dad's side of the family was sharecroppers. My mom's side of the family, my grandmother's grandmother, father
Mhm.
was Jewish,
Oh,
100%. So that was a double whammy for me with that comment of slavery,
mhm.
wishing he could own slaves, and then black Nazis. So I'm feeling like if you are entitled, You entitled to say and do whatever you want to. Okay, go ahead. But not being a tax-paying elected official. You don't have the right to do that with our taxpayers' money. So that's why this segment is entitled We the People, because Stephanie, this must end.
Mm-hmm.
The rhetoric, the negativity, the prejudice, the hate that are coming out of these elected officials using taxpayers' money that pays their salaries, their health care, their benefits, their pension. That's a no-no. If you want to say that, if you want to do that, God bless. Help yourself, but do it from a private sector. Do it from private sector. Don't collect taxpayers' money and think it is okay for you to disseminate that type of hate, that type of prejudice, that type of it's not okay for that. It is not okay for that. And I don't give a damn what nobody say. It's never okay for an elected official, be it president on down to local, to spew, to disseminate, advertise, market, or participate in anything that demise another race in any kind of way. What type of person says something like that? What type of person will want to own another person in that kind of manner? I don't understand in 2024 who with a heart of decency would see even your category. Thank you.
I apologize.
Don't apologize because you are a cat mommy. Yeah, killing it.
Yeah.
But I'm just, who would do that? So Stephanie, when I called you, we both were like flipping the hell out because I couldn't believe it. You couldn't believe that this man had the gumption to even say something like that.
Yeah.
I was girl, go ahead, because I was just too hurt. I was so hurt.
Yes, and you're also speaking to somebody. I mean, I haven't always known that I was Jewish, and we actually found out by blood because a family member married a Gentile woman, and it brings another thing as you rediscover yourself. And that side of the family has always been Polish, so I'm not surprised about that. So it brings a new light to things, and it does hit a few chords. But
yes, it does. Yes, it does. Because Stephanie, here to me, here is where it stops.
Mm-hmm.
If you feel like that, personally speaking, by the Constitution, you have the right to say that, feel that, be that, whatever. But you don't have the right to hold an elected office, no matter where we are in the United States of America, and display that type of ignorance, that type of hate, you don't have the right to do that with our money.
Right.
Because, sweetheart, we pay the salary. That's we the people. That's we the people. We pay the salaries. Some of us don't have the health care that they have, but guess what? They do. They collect checks. Well, some people are unemployed, homeless, and whatever. So you are privileged to be in a seat, a predicament of that manner. So I think collectively we're going to have to come back together and demand that these elected officials be held totally accountable for what they say, when they're saying it, how they're saying it, and when they're saying it, because you don't need to be in office. If that is how you're going to talk to the citizens of the United States of America, we the people.
Yeah.
Bottom damn line. My Jewish cousin, what you got to say, girl?
Oh, goodness. Well, I will say, I'll add a little bit of news to it. So several of his sponsors have actually quit and stepped down from the campaign. And President Trump had gone through to speak in North Carolina again. And he didn't say one thing about Mark Robinson. Mark Robinson wasn't involved. He wasn't talked about, nothing. It seems like the RNC is slowly stepping away from him since these things came out. especially how things are connected. And I'm so glad that the other news people did the investigations for this to find these things. And it's completely unreal to find that this is happening, and this is what this person has said before. So it's been very interesting to watch, and there might be more of a fallout that comes out in the next week.
Well, something else I didn't care for. Yeah. My parents, my auntie, my family from the south of Mississippi, Jim Crow. I mean serious Jim Crow. Yep. Couldn't walk in front doors, couldn't go to school, couldn't do it, didn't have any legal rights as a human being like others.
Couldn't be treated in hospitals, in white hospitals. They would die waiting to find, a black hospital they could go to. It was ridiculous.
Absolutely. And so my family has always conveyed the history and the foundation of what our families endured. Not angry, not bitter, but to educate so we wouldn't forget the struggle by which things have come. Privileges and rights and benefits have come. So they shared their stories of when Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King came down to the south of Grenada, Mississippi. My dad shared seeing Ku Klux Klan marching, and he was like, sweetheart, you just don't understand the sight of what that looked like. My dad, mom, aunties were constantly marching, going to jail directly with Dr. King and the other civil rights people who were in that area. One particular incident my mom shared with me, that they were uptown in Grenada marching when the Ku Klux Klan surround them. Dr. King told them, be still, let's kneel and pray. They kneeled and prayed. Mm-hmm. When they stood up and tried to walk away peacefully, the Ku Klux Klan chased them into Bellflower's church. I know exactly where that church is. My grandfather was buried there. My grandfather's funeral was there. Mm-hmm. My mom shared with me that day, that they were in that church for majority of that day until late in that evening. Why? Because the Ku Klux Klan has surrounded that church and threatened to burn it down and kill all of them unless Dr. King came out from the church. True story. So the history of what my family in particular have endured, mm-hmm. that puts the responsibility back on me for me to be a responsible, accountable citizen, productive citizen, to make sure I got all that they couldn't get, from being educated to making sure I'm being a part and contributing to the humanity of society, making sure I'm being respectful and treating people respectfully, and also demanding respect in return. Yep. So once again, it's just and the Nazi thing. I mean, wow. Mm-hmm. Wow. That goes without saying as well. Who with a heart, based on the Jewish people, of the suffering and the death and all that they have endured and still endure for no reason, mm-hmm. who would say something like that? Why would you want to say something like that other than pandering and trying to talk to a base of hate, racism, prejudice, and just to get elected? Yeah. What is the bottom? What is rock bottom where this BS absolutely stops? Where does it end? Because at this point, we, the people, taxpaying citizens, do not have to allow this anymore. Because I like Republicans, GOP, like the late Senator John McCain. I like the late GOP Secretary of State, General Colin Powell. I like Condoleezza Rice. I like Liz Cheney. I like Republican GOP
Yep.
that held that standard, of what their principles were about, and they lived according to what their public policies were. You never saw them spewing hate or prejudice or wanting to cause harm to anybody just to get elected. That was never acceptable. It was never public. It was never because that was just it was just a no. Back in the time, elected officials had to resign if they were if charges came up, or not charges, but if they were caught with infidelity. I mean, it was just so many. It was just that standards was so high, so they knew if you were elected, you had to live by these principles. You had to live by these standards, or you could not stay in office. So, Stephanie, since 2016, these elected officials are saying anything, doing anything, and it's like a damn free for all. Party time. We don't have to be held accountable. We don't have to win. Party time. Say what you want to at the State of the Union. Curse out, scream out. I mean, it's just like, when is this going to end? When are we going to get back to what this country is known for? Our excellence, our standards in our politics, when are we going to get back to what is right? When are we going to not let these people come in office? When are we going to make sure we hold them accountable and let them walk out the door?
Basically, when people finally see where all that anger gets them. I mean, you saw a change in a lot of people after January 6th, and there was a change and a step away from those that had it.
Yeah.
And had seen and been part of those people that had fueled the hate, so then they can get the base energized and going. And a lot of times when that happens, seeing where that gets them can have a lot of people step away from it and not do it as much or so much anymore. There was a time where this hate fuel was also used before World War II. And it was anti-Semitic. It did have a fascist base to it, which is crazy. Germany, Nazi Germany did have communications with the people that had been part of those movements. And there were violent attempts on our government before World War II, which is wild. But once World War II happened and we went to war, there was a drop of, we need to get there was a lot of people that dropped all of that hate and got themselves into the war effort. And especially after very many people saw the evidence of where the fascism got them, right? Especially with the Holocaust, when they found the evidence and seen everything. There were still Holocaust deniers as early as then, at the time. But once people see the evidence of where this hate-based violence gets them, it does have them deflate. But the sad part is we have to get to that point, and we haven't been there yet. And that's the scary part.
Yeah, so I'm like this, to each his own. I could care less if you don't like me, if whatever your comments are, you entitled to it. God bless. But what I do not condone nor accept is you as a tax-paying citizen thinking that you're going to use our money for your BS to hold office and cast rhetoric of that type of nature. How freaking dare you? And then for this man to be compared to Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King by Trump. Are you serious with this piece?
Oh, yeah.
Are you serious? Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King died without owning anything.
Yeah.
He was never a glory seeker. His heart was always back into the rights of people, humane, making sure that all rights based on the Constitution was accessible for everybody. So how in the hell could you ever think to compare this man to Dr. Martin Luther King in any capacity? How freaking insulting is that?
It is. I saw Reverend Al Sharpton's response to it on air, and the man almost cursed on air. You could tell that man was about to spit, and he was about to curse. I never saw a Reverend curse or get close to it as much as that man. Oh man, it was wild, and I just couldn't believe it with things that have been going on with that. And people have to understand that fascism, in different aspects of fascism that people are actually clamoring for, is not democracy whatsoever.
None whatsoever.
And it actually can cause a whole lot of negative effects that they would be worried about, that they accuse communists of, because they accuse communists of the extreme. But the thing is that communism and fascism is actually very similar in the laws that they put down on how they control people. There's an actual big, at least the extreme communism that you see, especially when the bad leaders, communist leaders, get in control. It is very similar to fascism. And right now, many are calling Putin a fascist, not a communist, because of the way he's actually ruling. And it's quite interesting, and that could actually explain the reason why the alt-right clamor for Putin and support Russian things, even though the Russians call themselves communists still. It's very interesting when you look at those different aspects of government and try to separate what they're calling themselves and what they're actually doing. And that's really important, is to make that difference between those two as well.
Yeah, and there's no room in America for that.
No.
There's no room in our democracy and our U.S. government. In America, there's no room and no place for that. So for those that want to participate in that private sector, hey, to each be own. You're entitled. You're entitled to stick whatever in your yard. You're entitled to attach whatever to your house. You entitled to that. I don't have a problem with anyone being who they are. See, because you can't preach it if you're not going to do it yourself. So guess what? You got the right to hate, to love, you got the right to do that. Private. That's why it's called private sector. That's why it's called individual rights based on your liberties and your pursuit of whatever you think your happiness is. But you don't have the right to hold an elected office of the United States of America, local, city, state, or federal, using taxpayers' money to pay your salary, your benefits, your health care, and think you have, and think it's okay. And think it's okay to hold office in any capacity, because it's not. So we the people we the people need to stand side by side regardless, and start sending back the signals of the GOP that we recognize, that we want, the John McCain's, the Colin Powell's, the Condoleezza Rice, the Liz Cheney's, the Adam Zimmerman. Those are the Republicans that we recognize. Mitt Romney and all those. Those are the GOP and Republicans that we understand, that would never, ever participate in something like that.
Susan Collins, I love her as a Republican. She's an amazing person and an amazing senator. And she stands by her values of her constituents, because she communicates with her constituents to find out what they want, what they believe in, and what their priorities are. And to me, that's more important when you're an elected official, to have that communication with your constituents, to go with what the majority of your constituents want and need. That's the important thing as an elected official, not listen to the minority of the entire, especially if the rest of the majority don't agree with it as well.
Absolutely.
It can be really damaging for the whole.
Yeah. So, but, and it's the difference between the GOP before 2016 and the GOP after 2016. There's a staunch difference. There's nothing recognizable about the after 2016 as opposed to the before. So
I would say pre 2012 for the Tea Party. If you
okay.
go pre 2012, because
Yeah.
to me 2012 eased Trump into everything, because
Yeah.
that's what fueled all the
Yeah.
hate towards
Ted
things.
Cruz. Yeah, Ted Cruz and all them. And that came about because they were determined that Barack Obama would only have one term.
Yes.
So
Well,
yeah.
they also spread a ton of lies, which
Yeah.
also that former President Trump also fueled, because he was a birther and he spread the birther lies. So there's other things
Yeah.
but the Tea Party was what eased the Republican Party into the Trumpism that's going on.
Yeah.
Pre-20.
But Steph, at least they still understood it was limits. It was limits. So yeah. So Stephanie, thank you so much. Thank you so much for this roundtable. AHG correspondence. We the people. We the people. We must demand accountability based on what these elected officials say and do now. There's not a free for all party anymore. If you cannot represent all fairly,